This woman sat in front of me right now is just a pure angel, and she is of pure angelic light. And as I'm trying to find the words to describe who she is, I can just feel my heart swelling and the emotions bubbling to the surface and just tears formulating in my eyes. And I really don't have the words to encapsulate all that she is, but I will tell you that she is Karli Kutz, and she is the founder of the Quantum Academy and has a signature divine healing modality of QERT. Our paths have crossed through lifetimes and lineages. And we actually met through a mutual friend. I received guidance very, very strongly to invite Karli onto the show and to interview me. And don't worry, everyone listening right now, she will be interviewed. I will be having her on as a guest, but it was a strong knowing. So I'm really excited and I'm really, really delighted that you are here. Thank you for being here, Karli.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. And really, when your invite came in, I was like, oh my gosh, of course, because I put it out to the universe and I told God, this year is about communion and I want to connect with my sisters. I want to connect with humanity in such a bigger spectrum and bring it to more people. And once Sinead just kicked this off, she didn't know that intention of mine. So thank you for listening to that activation as well.
Of course, you're so welcome. And that's one of my things. And I think that it's something that we should all do a lot more of, is just trusting the truth that is coming through us and taking action from that. And I think that we so often don't, because we're scared of how other people might receive what we have to say, or scared of what might happen if we say what's coming through. But yeah, I've always been one to follow that. And sometimes it's received really well and the invitation is accepted, and sometimes it's not. And I've done my part, and that's all that's needed, really.
Oh,
So
thank you for saying that. Yes, because that's an activation in itself too. No matter what, listening to the divine calling, no matter how it's taken. I would love to expand on just that part for a moment. How has that been for you speaking, even when it maybe wasn't well received?
it's interesting because this is something that I've had to relearn, because there were many occasions where I have spoken truth. And I haven't always been confident, especially in the past. It would take a good few drinks for me to, but that is the past. I've had to relearn how to find the confidence and the courage to speak truth no matter what. And it's detaching from the outcome and knowing that I'm doing as I'm being guided to do, and I'm being as I am being called to be, and I'm just following my heart and soul. And I know that because I know myself so well, I know that there is never any malice intention or anything like that. So, however, anybody wants to receive the invitation or whatever it is I have to say, that's their responsibility. And I'm taking responsibility for my side of the street, and they get to take responsibility for their side of the street. And as long as I'm actually just doing my own due diligence and not taking their response personally, then I think that, if we actually all did that, it'd probably be a lot nicer of a world that we lived in, if we were all just being honest with ourselves and with other people, and knowing that we actually just, and we're all reflections of one another, right? So yeah, it has taken many a year to get to a space where I feel confident to just approach, often people that I haven't necessarily built a great rapport with, or there's not much of a trust there, or there's not much of a knowing there. And it's just taking the plunge, so to speak, and trusting the guidance, because I know myself that I don't do anything unless there's meaning behind it. And I might not always recognize or understand the meaning, but I know that there is always a reason for everything.
That's so bold too, to just always be such in conviction and truth, no matter the outcome. That's what I loved how you said that was no matter the outcome, that is their responsibility of how they take it, how they perceive it, how they want to utilize that information, or, say yes to your invitation or whatever it may be. And it really gives them radical responsibility and empowerment for themselves as well, which a lot of us, growing up, we didn't feel that we had, or we didn't know how to utilize that. So it's like you get to multidimensionally heal that through so many different lifetimes and lineages just by listening to the initiation that's coming through, but detaching from the outcome because you know that it's coming from a higher source that's always leading you back to the one.
Yeah, and as I said, it wasn't always that way. Sometimes it was just speaking the truth, and I had no idea of the implications of the frequency because the frequency of truth is so powerful and it can change and it can shock and it can create disruption and it can, some people don't appreciate being told the truth because they're so used to being lied to. That's a truth bomb in itself. And it's so interesting. I was having this conversation recently. Are people being gaslit, or is it that they are perceiving the truth to be being gaslit because they have always been lied to? It's like a paradox. So they think that the world that we live in is absolute truth. There's no, like, nothing is an illusion. Nothing's distorted. Everything is as it is and as it should be. And so when somebody comes to them with the truth, it feels jarring to their system. It feels violating. It feels like they're being called out. It feels like that they're being gaslit in that moment, when in actual fact, we're living in a world that gaslights us every bloody day without us even realizing.
I'm like, that's just so much truth in itself. And some people are deafened because they don't want to or accept the truth, because what would that mean? Would that mean that they have to radically shift their entire life? Because once you see truth, you pierce through the veils, you can't unsee anymore. It's just that's what it is. Truth clears it all.
Yeah, and you have to take radical ownership for what you do from there on out. So if you see truth and you choose to ignore it, you're actually lying to yourself. And so you have to take self-ownership and self-responsibility for that, that you're choosing to ignore it. You're choosing to actually buy into the lies, the distortions, the inversions, the programs, the conditions, like all of the things. And so this is a big conversation.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like this could be just a couple podcast episodes in itself, is just truth in itself. But truth is so powerful, and truth reveals so much and releases the suppression that, the collective's been living out of. And everybody's just searching for truth, but not everybody wants to know the truth. Unconsciously searching, but when it really comes down to it, does the collective, does humanity really want to know the truth? Because truth sometimes can expose more than you ever knew was beyond the surface, right? And but also the most beautiful things are found at the core of it.
Mm. And also, I don't actually believe that everybody realizes or recognizes that that's what they're searching for. They're looking for why. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? When in reality, they're searching for the truth. But because they're asking the wrong questions, they're only receiving the answers that they're ready to receive in that moment.
Oh, yes. That's exactly it. Exactly what they're ready to receive. Like, if you're not ready for full truth, you're going to get half-assed, watered down truth, right? Or you're going to get a little tiny bit of it. And sometimes it could maybe blow out one's nervous system if they get all truth at once. So, I do believe that there is some divine intervention there, that we don't get it, the full spectrum if our body is not fully ready, like on a multidimensional level. But also we have to take responsibility of, am I ready to really step forward? Am I really ready to step into my mission, my light, how I'm highly coded, and how I'm here to serve humanity and myself for the lifetimes and lineages that I'm here, right? So it really does take, I think all of this comes back to radical responsibility, and really taking ownership of our light and our mission and why we're here.
Yes. Yes to all of that. And that is, so it's interesting that my clients come to me because they want to make a shit ton more money. Okay, that's surface level. And what they're actually really coming to me for is to learn how to lead themselves powerfully through every single iteration of their life and business. And that takes them being willing to receive the truth. And when they do receive the truth, and when I do speak truth, it speaks right to the very core of their being, and they actually physically feel it in their body to the point where they feel like they've gone to the gym for a whole hour and done like an abs workout or something like that, because that's how potent the truth can be and feel to the physical body when you speak it. And so, of course, it's going to create a reaction, a response, and it's not always going to feel pleasant. And of course, we've been conditioned to react, to project, to, instead of kind of metabolizing whatever it is we're experiencing, we are conditioned to, horizontally project those experiences, like the feelings, the sensations that we feel internally. We're conditioned to horizontally project them out versus, metabolizing them, understanding what is this, like almost like going into a sense of self-reflection. So that's why people do search for truth. They're asking, why is this happening? But when they receive it, it can feel a certain type of way. So when my clients come to me, on some level, they come to me because they've been guided to me. All right, period. We're having this conversation because this is all intuitively and divinely guided. But they come to me because they're ready for that truth. It comes when it's ready, and never before and never after. And they receive it and hear it, because there's a difference. People can hear things and not receive it until they're ready. Yeah. So when they're ready to receive it, that's when they'll feel it internally and everything will shift.
Absolutely. And we have to feel it to make the shift. And I think that's the biggest part, is why this work is so potent, why quantum evolution, why your work, why this whole vessel, this high mission coding is so potent, is because when you can feel it, then you can transform it. But it's like, we all day could hear things, but if we don't feel it on a cellular level, if we don't feel it innately through our multidimensional aspects, we're not going to be able to make a transition, because we can't feel it. We can hear it and it stays in our head, but it's way different than when you can embody it and bring it down into your chakras, bring it down into the whole innate cellular level of your being and your vessel. And that becomes truth. It becomes solid and concrete in your vessel when you can feel it on a multidimensional level. So how you get to serve people at this rate when they're called to you, when they're divinely guided to work with you, is because they can feel something cellularly. They can feel your conviction. They can feel your embedded truth. They can feel that innately through you. And they're like, oh my goodness, I can feel this in her. So now I know she can facilitate me to find my own. And that's what you just do such a beautiful job at, that source of conviction that is unshakable. Like, just from my perception and getting to see how you stand in your conviction, no matter what. And like you said, detaching from the outcome of how it might come across or how they take it or whatever it may be, that is your potency of, leading your clients, leading humanity forward, is just with such conviction, unapologetically, because that's how you've been highly coded to serve here, which is just magical.
And I've had to learn how to lead myself powerfully through a number of excruciating experiences, and keep going. And it wasn't even a choice or a question of keep going. It just was. And it was almost like I was always coded. I don't even know if that's the most appropriate word to use in this instance, but I was always looking for the why. And I still find myself going into the spiral of, why is this happening? And why is this? And why? And why? And actually, the more we ask that question, why, the more confused we become. And it's almost like we're actually leading ourselves into a sense of almost like psychosis, just going straight into the why all the time. And the journey that I've been on to get to this point, I've followed that why, and I have been in psychosis according to certain people. and powerfully lead myself through that, out of that, and through all of the fires to get to this point. And so when, just circling back slightly, when my clients come to me, and it's not just my clients, okay, it's humanity as a whole. If we speak about collective, most of humanity is completely disassociated from their bodies. So when you actually do speak truth, they don't hear it fully, which is why it goes in one ear and out the other, or it goes in and then they project out, or, you know, it doesn't land because they don't feel it. They don't feel the resonance. But it's not that they don't feel the resonance. If they didn't, the resonance is there regardless. So that's why people like you and I are having this conversation. I have friends that I have, and I have clients that I have, because there's a resonance there. There's a frequency resonance there. But so many people are disconnected from their bodies. So even if I were to say something in one step at one time, they're not going to feel the truth in this on a deep cellular level, and it's not going to do anything until they're reconnected with their bodies and they allow themselves, give themselves permission to actually be in the body first.
Oh, yeah, which comes within first, just like you said, being able to walk yourself, being able to know
Exactly.
yourself. Yeah, absolutely. And then even knowing that, like we were saying, speaking truth no matter what, no matter if it lands, no matter what it may be. Have you seen from instances of you speaking truth and then, say it either blows up or it doesn't land, quite well, but then later someone gets to come back to it, say, aha, I get it, or they understand at a later time. Has that ever happened for you?
That's happened on numerous occasions. And it's also happened where I've spoken truth and people have been so damn offended and thought that I was the biggest arsehole alive, which, you know, sometimes I can be because I'm human. Let's not forget about that part of me. But and also it's just, you know, so I actually wouldn't see or hear or know their experience or their, or, you know, see them when they have the aha moment, when the penny drops. So yes and no.
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
that's the whole point of speaking truth, is not to go, oh, I've just told you what you needed to hear and now look what's happened for you, amazing, and making it all about me again, because it's not about me. Like,
no.
I am not the source for other people's transformations. I am not the source for other people's results. I am literally the conduit.
Mm.
I am the channel, and I share what comes through me, period. And so we have to take ourselves out of the equation. We have to take the ego out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're not even attached to what that may be. Yeah, that was just an interesting question because I've definitely seen that on my occasions as well of, speaking truth, and I totally detach and it might have not came out, they did not take it well. And then, years later they'll come back and they were like, that was the most monumental thing that ever, activated in my life, and I didn't get it for years. So I've just seen that happen. And, as we say, it doesn't matter to us as the channel, as the conduit, as you're speaking of, we detach from the outcome, but also how amazing when knowing that it's for a greater purpose, even though we may not know or see ever what that may be. So it's like really, truly that ego detachment from the outcome, from what may be there, is big.
Yeah. And it's also, I think it's very much worth speaking into discernment as well, and discerning, like, is this information that I'm being guided to share? Is this going to elevate this person? Is this going to add value to their life? Is it, so it's not filtering the truth, it's just being really discerning. So I could receive information about you that could be really, really traumatizing if I actually shared it with you. So is this going to be for your highest elevation and liberation? And if it is, do I get to, like, do I, like, you have to be discerning as to whether I share it and deliver it to you, you know? And on many occasions I've been in situations where, firstly, I've never been asked my permission if it's okay for somebody to share something that's been very, very traumatic for me to receive. And secondly, where, well, it's just been delivered and then I've had to pick up the pieces afterwards. And I've also been on the other, like, the other side of the coin where I've delivered information and I've had to learn about discernment the hard way, recognizing that the information that I was giving this person, it was one singular event and it was a huge lesson for me, which made me really learn more about discernment. But it was a piece of information that could have potentially spiraled out of control. It didn't, thankfully. But it's like, is this information that I'm delivering? Yes, it might be truth, but is it actually going to elevate this person into their highest timeline? Is it going to be supportive for them? Is it going to be, do they actually need to know? Is it going to add value to their lives? Is it my responsibility to actually give them this information? Like, if they're a paying client, I will always check in and I will say, like, I've received this information. Would you like to hear it? That kind of thing. But I didn't always do that. And I've worked with people who have never done that. And they've just literally said, Sinead, this has happened when you were 2, and this has happened, and this has happened, and this has happened. And I've gone, what the actual fuck? I didn't even know any of that. And then I've been left picking up the pieces because I can feel the truth and the resonance within it. But it's just, there has to be, discernment has to be a huge consideration when we're delivering truth. And we also have to just check in with ourselves as well. Like, am I doing this for the highest good of this person? Or am I doing this because I'm going to get brownie points when they make this huge change in their lives and they're going to be thanking me? So is it altruistic or is it just completely neutral?
Wow. Yeah, that is like huge, which we know on this journey that discernment is the most blessing activation and can be one of our most challenging activations at the very same time, but it still always leads us to the truth. It always leads us home. But I know even just from personal instances that, discernment can be a challenging pill to swallow at times. And, learning that every time we learn a level and a lesson and an experience of discernment, we grow our evolution, we grow our mission, we grow our capacity and our cellular level of energetics that we can hold. Is that how that feels also to you, Sinead?
Yes. And also we become great bullshit detectors when we've really got our discernment on lock. Like, that's almost like the byproduct of discernment mastery, is like being this excellent bullshit detector and not being phased. Like, I know when somebody's lying or when somebody's talking out of their backside, like, instantly. And is it discernment or is it just that I'm really fucking shit hot at like just being psychic and intuitive? And I think it's a little of both. And I think that discernment, it is about discernment in delivery, it's discernment in what you choose to consume as well. And that's the thing. So it's not just a one-way street, it is always a two-way street. So we get to be discerning as to what it is that we receive, what we consume, what we absorb, what we allow into our field of sovereignty, what we allow into our consciousness. And so that for me is the discerning piece where we get to like really fine tune and tweak it to like, is this bullshit or is this actually real? Is this true for me or is it not? Like, and do I want to process this? Do I want to allow this in? Because there's so much right now, and there will be more that is going to try to hijack and hijack our consciousness. I mean, we've been living in a world that has already done that since we were born anyway. And so now we have to really almost like have the bullshit radar on red alert and be discerning, and also know that we get to make choices about what we allow in and what we don't. So I think discernment, choices, that kind of thing really go hand in hand. Truth goes hand in hand. And that's the other thing, like when you're delivering information and it feels like truth, you get to discern through the body whether it is truth, because that's how you'll know, because it'll be a different frequency. Truth is an internal job, and it's also like a divinely guided job, but you'll feel it. There's a complete different resonance as to whether something is truth or truth crap. Is this all making sense?
Yes, no, I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. And I love, because I was just going to ask you the question. I know for me, but I wanted to know from you too, like, how do you discern truth? And, same thing. It's in the body. It's from within you. It's within your divine, organic, ordained birthright energy. It's already within you. It's not found outside. It's not found from an inorganic sourcing. It's not pulling it in from some other. It's really from digging to the deep root. And a lot of times that takes us dismantling the bullshit that we grew up to believe, and that's where we're trying to find the truth, that it's like, oh, okay, when we're pulling off the layers and dissecting, and that's where we're discerning, is that really of me? And in my body, how does that truth resonate to me? Does it give me that, higher heart rate? Does that give me an anxious feeling? Or does it really sit with confidence and love and potentiality? And does it feel spacious? And I know that when I feel something that's not truth, I can't take a full deep breath in. That is like my go-to, is like, I feel like I can't, when I discern, if I'm kind of like, I hear something, or, I ignite something, and then I'm like, is that full truth? And if I can't take a full breath, it's just not truth, or full truth, or something that doesn't need to be said. It's like, that's my bullshit detector, but it really is found innately in the body.
Mm. And I think for me, it's a knowing, it's a frequency thing. I've always been able to read frequency better than I have like the words that people are saying to me. Like I
Mm-hmm.
will know, and I won't know how I will know, but I will know what's truth and what's not. I will know when somebody is of false light as well. I know instantly. I will know if there's something around me that's not of highest divine light, love, and truth as well. And that's been something that's been part of my journey, because I have had things around me. I have been in experiences and situations where things haven't been in my highest and best, and where I have had to, really learn and master what it means to be discerning, and what it means to be in truth, and what it means to be fully working with the divine and with light and all of those things. And it's been a journey in and of itself. Um, yeah.
But look at the way that now you're able to lead clients through the distortion and the illusions that have covered up their truth and covered up their own true discernment. So that purity that you can lead within, that, dismantles all the inorganics, is so potent, because truly when someone has you as their right hand, and you're able to help them and facilitate them to, seeing the full truth, then it's illuminated from within them, and it's just such a point of power for them moving forward.
And that's one of the things I'm actually very, very good at, is seeing the very truth of the person sat in front of me, and their heart and their purity and their power and their potency, and how they can tap into that, and how they can really it's not just tapping into it, it's expanding into it. It's about taking up more space, and giving themselves permission to really reclaim that personal power, so that they get everything that they want in their life. And because that's truth, right? That is our truth, is our sovereignty, it's our authenticity, it's who we were before the world got its grubby little hands on us with the layers and the dampening and the projections and all of the rest of it. So I see the truth of people, and I reflect that to them, and then they start to notice it within themselves, and then they can actually powerfully start to deliver the truth, receive the truth, speak their truth, be in their truth, all of the things. And that's where they become so fucking magnetic that they get everything they want anyway. They're leading themselves powerfully from that space. Exactly. Because that's the thing. It's releasing the debris. I don't know how it happens. It's a presence that I hold. It's a conviction. It's a certainty. It's also a frequency. Like, it's so many things. And it's also the way that I express myself. It's the way that I speak. It's and what they receive as well, because I don't think it's just in my words either. It is like it's all of it.
Mm. Whew. Yeah, you could probably hear me. I'm like, throat chakra activation here.
Truth,
We,
truth, truth.
it's so much truth. Yes, that's what happens to me when I read or have very highly activating conversations. It's like, we feel that activation there. What you said that really stuck out to me, Sinead, was taking up space, which is from that wounded inner child or the old fractals of self that are still unclaimed, it can feel so sticky to take up space. And, as a collective pulse, a wounded collective pulse, it's like, okay, stay out of people's way, or, we don't want to be rejected, or we don't, it's all these things of not trying to take up space. And that is the very thing that heals and activates and clears so much of this debris, is taking up the damn freaking space, standing in the center, taking up more, being the everything that everybody said you shouldn't be, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Taking center stage of your own life, 100%. And not being afraid to do that, and not being afraid of being rejected, and not being afraid of being abandoned, and not being afraid of being looked like side-eyed, just being all of who you are without fear, which is what taking up space is all about. It's about giving ourselves permission to participate in the world and ask the questions and say the things, and it's not moving from a space of fear. It's moving from a space of power. It's moving from a space of love for yourself. It's moving from a space of, oh, well, I'm human and I actually get to take up space. I get to have all of this. Like, I don't want to shrink. I don't want to shrivel. I don't want to contract. And I think that's what happens, is that we live in contraction. We don't live in expansion a lot of the time. So we don't even know what it means to take up space. And we're not just speaking physical space, although it can mean that, but it's actually just knowing that you are more than a body, right? For a start, you are more than your mind. You are so much more than that. And just because you can see with the two eyes that you have, it doesn't mean that that's just as far as you extend, is like the periphery of your skin and your body. You are so much more than that, and you get to take up so much more space. And when you allow yourself to fully expand into all of that, like it's the magnitude and the magnificence of who you be, like all of it.
Yes, 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 yes. So when you say, when you're in your power and you're in your light, as you always are, as you are in this moment, it's just, I can see it just fuming. It's like beautiful. With you being in your authenticity and being more expansive on more multidimensional levels, is there anything that you want to go into, or kind of give us like a texture, a visual of what that taking up space looks like for you?
I think, you were saying earlier on, when something's not truth, you can't breathe, like you can't take a breath. And I think that a lot of us forget to breathe. And I think that if we were truly aware of our breath every single moment, we'd probably breathe a lot deeper, and we'd probably expand our bellies a lot more and our lungs a lot more. And we organically want to kind of roll our shoulders back and our posture shifts. And, it's almost like we straighten and lengthen and broaden and expand. And that's what it feels like when somebody breathes life into you, because that's what happens, is when you're given permission to take up all that space. It's almost like you can breathe again. You can let your belly out. You don't have to breathe it in anymore. You can be all of who you are without condition. And that's what taking up space is, and it's you giving your self permission to do that without judgment, without shame, without guilt, without blame, without any of those things, just being as a human being.
Oh my gosh. And of course, because that's why that word was so highly divinely coded from the beginning of time, as human being. But we're so, attuned from the debris and the falsity and the scarcity and all the things of doing rather than being. So when we're taking up that spaciousness, like you said, letting that belly out, I always think about it as like a newborn baby or little children, as they have these little amazing little pot bellies that they're just breathing perfectly, and they're just so, I mean, of course, just innocent and perfect and perfection. But you just see their little belly, and they're not sucking their belly in. They're not trying to stop their breath. They're not wondering about the next 5 minutes. They're in the very moment, and they're in their beingness. They're crying out when they need. They're, getting fed when they need to be fed, getting changed when they need to be changed. And so do you think that we're just coming back to remembering that as we're taking up more space, and utilizing our spaciousness and our sovereignty?
Yeah, 100%. And they're also not asking, why am I here? What's the meaning of all of this? What am I doing? They're just being.
They're just being.
They're just being. They're getting fed, they're getting watered, they're getting loved. Um, and so it's after that stage, that's when the questions start. That's when the meaning comes. That's when all the, oh, will I have to act a certain way to belong, to be accepted? And if I act in this way, I'm going to get rejected. And so the more batterings, it feels like a battering that happens. The more we contort, the more we contract, the more we want to stay small, the more we dim our own light, the more just we minimize ourselves in a lot of ways, in the way that, the body, physicality, the way that we see ourselves, the way that we speak. And so it's returning to self, it's returning to soul. It's
Yep.
returning to the point of inception, which is literally what it is. It's like remembering that we are pure light and taking up the space that we actually came here to take up, versus being contorted by all of the different things. Like, why am I here? Why are you here? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? You shouldn't be doing this. All of the shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, all of the things.
And that's what creates so much clutter and or disease, ailments, all the things in people's fields is all the other contortion like you're speaking of. Like that's the actual energetic. It's not, people are always asking what's wrong with me or
Yeah.
what can I fix or what can I do? And I'm like, being more of you, being more of the authenticity, being more of the truth of who you are is the actual healing agent, right? And so it's not looking to all these outsider energetics, but really coming back to the inside energetic and attuning that field and that oneness and that wholeness within the self.
Yes. But because people don't actually remember who they are or who they were or who they even want to be, it creates a bit of a conundrum. So we can sit here and say, just be the truth of who you are and be your authentic self. Nobody knows who they are, which is why they go into the perpetual why and what am I making this mean? And what does that mean? And what is this? And what is that? Because they actually don't know who they are. I didn't know who I was for a very long time. I knew that I didn't want to be here for a lot of my life because it felt uncomfortable, because I didn't feel like I belonged. And I think that's why we look for meaning. It's like that man search for meaning. I don't know if you've ever read that book, Viktor Frankl. I think you need to read that book, which is why I'm sharing it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's coming back to the truth of who you are. But if you don't know who the truth of you are is, that's why you go on that perpetual search for, why am I here? What does this mean? What does that mean? But if you were a baby, who do you think you would be if you were a baby? You would be innocent. You wouldn't have thoughts. You probably, I mean, you're kind of starting to have thoughts, but not very many. You probably wouldn't be asking a shit ton of questions. You certainly wouldn't be judging yourself. You certainly wouldn't be holding on to projections of shame or guilt. You certainly wouldn't be thinking that you're a bad person or a wrong person or a this person or a that person. And so, yeah, that's the truth of who you are, is underneath all of that. You're pure love. Okay, that's the truth of who you are. And so anything beyond that, anything that doesn't feel like that, is an illusion and it's a lie. Period.
Which that is the true magnetism. When someone is that magnetism of their innocence and their true love and their power and divine wisdom, that's where people are magnetized. As you are in that frequency, you're in that light. People are magnetized towards you because they know and they can feel that conviction and that truth. So they're looking for truth and they see you as, not that they're wanting your truth, but hey, this is someone that I would love to work in close proximity to, because that's going to elevate me in finding my own truth, right? So it's like the potency of how you're highly coded in that then allows other people to step into that same oneness within themselves that then co-creates the magnetism. So yeah, is it really about money, or is it really about the magnetism of the innocence of your love and your truth?
And I think so we've been conditioned to look for problems to fix, because we think that we're wrong and we think that we are a problem and we're a burden and that we must suffer for our sins, quote unquote. Um, yeah. We must sacrifice something. We must, yeah, suffer basically. And so that's the line that we've been fed. And so that's what we look for. And if we're not suffering, then we don't deserve to be here. We don't deserve to live. And so it's actually returning oneself to the truth, which is love, of course. And it's also creation. We are creation. And
Mm.
so every time we look for a problem to be fixed or look for something else that's wrong with me today and what else can I heal and what else can I fucking what other challenge can I look to overcome or navigate, we can shift that. We can actually choose differently and we can choose creation. What can I create? And
Mm.
even when we're called to, when we experience a deep sense of boredom, I'm so fucking bored. I'm bored. I'm bored. And even with things like addictions as well, is that we're so far from our truth because we're so far from our purpose. And so our purpose is to create because we're all creator beings. So we have to come back to what can I create versus what problem do I need to fix?
Oh, wow. I'm like, I just saw this key unlock the womb, the portal of creation. It was just like,
Mm,
I could just see that visually, quantumly, because the source of our creation, our whole creatrix, our whole portal is the initiation. Our co-creation with higher source, with our own vessel, is how we create that momentum, how we create the motion for our mind, our body, our soul, our energetics, our life to then propel forward is creation. So
yeah.
it's like, but so we've been so trained to focus on the problems rather than the creation. And so when it really comes from that seed of creation, because look at, we are literally a source of creation.
Mm-hmm.
We came from the womb space. So when we return back to the womb space, we return back to our home, which is our center core of self and our sacral, and in our worthiness and our truth and our solar, then we're able to bring it all online. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, because looking for a problem is looking through the lens of distortion, right?
Yeah.
It's looking through what's wrong, what can I fix, the sin paradigms, the fractures, the unhealed versions of humanity. And that is not one's truth. One's truth is the creation portal that then dissipates all of that. So that's how one succeeds the elevation of self, right?
Yeah. It's not truth, period. Like we live in an inverted world. And so we're constantly being reminded that we're a problem, that we are unworthy, that we're not good enough. We see it in like subliminally, we're being programmed. We see it all over in the entertainment industry, women specifically feeling like that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy enough, that they're not lovable because of what they look like, the shape of their body, the, you know, this is an episode in and of itself, really, and probably at least 10. But
Yeah, yeah, I feel it.
yeah. And so it's actually, coming back to I am creation, I am love, I'm here to create, I'm here to experience joy and play and lightness and fun and peace, not constantly be on the hamster wheel of looking for problems to fix, looking what else do I need to heal? What other ancestral problem do I need to process and metabolize and alchemize because I am the black sheep of the family, or as I like to say, the sacrificial lamb.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually having the choice to say no. I choose creation. I choose to move forward because creation is going to propel you forward because it's life force energy. Whereas problems, fixing, challenges, always facing in the it's not scarcity. It's just always it's when we look for problems to fix, we're coming from a space of fear.
Mm-hmm.
When we're
And I
looking for
just see,
solutions to create, we're coming from a place of love.
mm, yes, I just see fixing as stagnation. Like I was just
Yeah.
seeing that so deeply. It's like stagnant. And it's like, if someone's even wanting to change a health issue or, what's a relationship or whatever. It's like, we don't want stagnation. We want creation and co-connection, right? We want that perpetual motion. So really just tuning back into the self, tuning back into the womb space, into the reproduction, into the portal of creation itself is where it all comes from. I'm like, this is such a hot topic. I'm like, I think I'm sweating. I mean, I know you needed that visual, but I'm like, woo! I'm sweating. Wow. Okay.
You're welcome.
This is magical. So I really want to bring this back to, so now we have this whole creation, which I know that creation is also what birthed the Initiatrix. So just, tell me that in a nutshell. Like, tell me the most undeniable moment that came through of when the Initiatrix like wanted to be birthed, when that creation came to you.
2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. Give me texture on that.
So it wanted to be birthed 2 years ago. And of course, I'm like, okay, let's go. What do I need to do? Who do I need to hire? What do I need to outsource? What do I need to talk about? Let's do this shit. Let's go. Let's go. But as with everything, when I feel an urge to create, it's usually because it has a higher purpose and a higher meaning. And so one of my lessons in this lifetime is to learn all about divine timing and patience, because I'm also an Aries. I have a lot of fire energy in my chart. I am a manifestor in human design, so I'm all about getting shit done and just blazing trails and just going into a space of the unknown. So the Initiatrix came through 2 years ago, and it has just been sat waiting patiently to be birthed now, when it's needed now, when people, the collective, are kind of ready for it.
Yeah, this is like high
maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
maybe not. And I always knew that when she came through, that it wasn't just going to be another one of your standard podcasts. I always knew that every single episode is going to be a transmission of sorts. It's going to be an activation and an initiation for those that listen. It's going to be an initiation for my guests and for myself. It's going to be like, it is a spark of truth in and of itself. And so the 2-year pause, has also, whenever I'm being called to birth anything of this caliber, I have to go through an initiation. There's a rite of passage that I must journey so that I can deliver information from a complete space of neutrality, and so that I can learn what I need to learn, connect with the people that I need to connect with, because everything has always been divinely orchestrated. So even though I'm like 10 years ahead and everything's done and it's sorted and, it's been, I've got a million episodes out and a million listeners and all the rest of it, there has been it's almost like every single step that I've taken in my life, and even with the Initiatrix, I've met certain people, have gravitated and I've magnetized certain people in for now. Like, not 2 years ago, there's people like you and I weren't even having a conversation 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. The people I've already interviewed as guests, I didn't know. 2 years ago, I didn't have the wisdom that I have. And I didn't have the confidence to say the things that I've been saying today. 2 years ago, I probably would have shied away. I wouldn't have been in this, excuse me, I like to call it my audacity era, where I really don't give a fuck. But secretly I do, because I'm human. But, it's just, that's why it's, as I said, 2 years ago, it came through, and now it's going to be released. Because divine timing, #divine timing.
Oh my gosh. Which, yes, patience is like, oh my gosh, it's in my gene key chart, patience. So I can totally resonate with that. It's like you're like sitting there looking at the clock, like, okay, humanity, like,
Hurry up
come on,
now. Giddy
hurry
up.
up now.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, when the initiatrix came to you, was it like an undeniable feeling? Was it like a sensation? Did you see it? Did you get woken up in the middle of the night? Like how was that?
It was just a knowing. It was a knowing. All I always knew. So I had a podcast previously, and that podcast was very successful. I really, really enjoyed it, but it was a journey for me. That was an initiation in and of itself. And it got me used to using my voice. It got me used to interviewing people. It got me through so much. So I always knew once I closed the door on that, that there would be another iteration, but it wouldn't be like it's a completely different energy. I'm a completely different energy. Um, and so it was a knowing that it would return. It was a knowing that it would come when it was supposed to come. And then when she came through, it was okay, this is what it's called. This is what I need to speak about. This is, and I felt almost like this pressure. I did feel a pressure to start to begin straight away. And I knew there was like a pressure that I'm putting on myself to start straight away. There was a pressure that I could feel that was like there's a pressure here that's happening from outside of myself, not necessarily to start straight away, but to definitely give it some serious thought, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and every time I approached organizing things, because podcasts, you don't just hit record and off you go. I mean, a lot of people do, but the way that I like to do, I'm a bit of a perfectionist at heart. Or I could reverse that and say I actually have really high fucking standards. Okay.
I
So
love that.
of myself and other. So I like to do things in a really methodical way, in a really perfect way. And so every time I try to approach getting this out there, it wasn't happening. And then there'd be something else that would come up, or there would be another piece of the puzzle that would drop in. And so, yeah, it's a creative urge that's taken 2 years to come to life.
Oof. Which that methodical process of over the 2 years that has expanded, it feels like this weaving, this threading, this birthing, this creation of, so much of, if we want to have a baby, like it's not, you don't just have a baby in your arms in one day. It doesn't happen like that, right? So I just really honor the way that you've allowed this to really mend and be held and be woven and allow yourself to be woven and in this new architecture of bringing the Initiatrix online, because so much of humanity is going to get just so much out of every episode, every vibration, every word spoken is an activation in itself. So I know you gave a little bit of texture on what listeners and all of us listening to the podcast will receive, but is there any more depth or texture that you see and perceive as what you're bringing online, like how this will help activate someone?
I think it would just activate them regardless. It doesn't, and it's not an intention. So with my last podcast, it was very much the intention of this shit's going to trigger you, and this is what's going to come up, and get curious and ask better questions and all of the things. And it's like, I know that I could stand in the corner of a room with 100 people and I'd still activate someone without even opening my mouth. So it's just like, I know that that's going to happen regardless of what it is that I say, what it is that I do. It's just going to happen. So what's going to be activated for each individual, I don't know. It's a personal journey to
Mm-hmm.
them, as is me speaking my truth, because this is a platform where I will always, and that is a promise, speak my truth from a space of neutrality and from the best of who I am in this very moment and each and every moment.
Mm.
Um, And so beyond that, I don't know how people are going to be activated. I don't 100% know everything that I'm going to be sharing. But what I can tell you is that my intention for this podcast is that this isn't just a one and done thing. This isn't, oh, you're going to hear from me like for the next 3 months and then I'm gone. I'm going to ghost you all. That's not happening. This is a lifelong commitment. This is a lifelong relationship. And so this is a space that I invite you to continue to come back to in your own time, at your own pace, follow your own true north, your own divine timing, and to take what resonates and disregard the rest, to be really discerning about what it is that I'm saying, and ask yourself those questions. Is this truth for me? Is what, like, I feel something happening here right now. What is this that I'm experiencing versus, oh my God, did you hear what Sinead said the other day? She's a complete bitch. Like that kind of thing. Take personal responsibility. And I'm not saying that everybody's going to think that, although, I don't give a shit if you do, to be fair. That's yours stuff, not mine. But it's going to be a space where I am going to be radically honest and tell you, when you do these things, you're going to get everything that you want.
Wow.
Period.
That's huge. What I loved what you said, Sinead, was the part about the commitment. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be, you're still going to be speaking your truth. You're still going to be speaking with conviction in your voice and, whatever words you just spoke of that. But hearing that just gave me and my body I'll do a couple and see what happens. Like, I can feel your conviction, your devotion, and your commitment to yourself, to your mission, to humanity, which then that trickles back to us as we're listening. Like, I'm just like, and so then that harnesses a level of commitment that you're holding. And then I feel that level of commitment and I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to commit to myself on that level. So like, just as a reflection, like that amount of commitment, the undeniable devotion that you have put into this podcast, that you've methodically been weaving it for 2 years, is the devotion, is the commitment that is all showing us just like that's how success is built. That is how solid architecture is formed, is, not just, oh, we'll just see what happens. We're going to dabble here, start a little podcast it's like, this is a fucking movement. This is a coded and highly evolutionary space to dive into the Initiatrix. It's not just a one and done, and it could be for someone if that's their own discernment, but you're not going anywhere. So I thank you for that level of commitment, that level of devotion that's all showing up in different ways for us and how we can commit back to ourselves.
And I'm just gonna like reflect and circle back and just say, like, I have been, like, when I started my business, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna do this thing and see what happens. And I did that with the last podcast. I'm just gonna do this thing and see what happens. And I think that that is what I'm doing. I'm just going to do this thing and see what happens. But I'm so committed to doing this thing and seeing what happens. I'm willing to see it through long term. And that's the commitment, is that I'm not going anywhere. Yes, it might be a level of, I'm going to do this thing and see what happens, because that's the detachment of the result or the outcome or the expectation, or, because so many people come into the world of podcasting and go, okay, I'm going to start a podcast and I want 60 people listening to it, and I'm going to check the numbers and I'm going to check the ratings and I'm going to do this and and they make it all about the numbers, and then they make it about themselves, and then they make it about how worthy they are and how good a job they're doing. And it's like, where's another problem I need to fix? And my intention and my commitment and devotion and discipline, because it will require discipline on my part as well, to see this through, is that if I have one person listen to one episode and it has an impact on them, whereby they get everything that they want, or at least something that they want, I'm doing what I came here to do. Period.
Which is such such an activation. I just got truth bumps again. This is an initiation, of course, of course. But focusing on the creation portal and why you created it and why you are that channel and that vessel it's really coming back to that. Like you said, it's not about the numbers, not how many, but that one person that it could impact. And then, we know the ripple effect and how things just transform through frequency, vibration, energy, all the things. So knowing that that one person is your center focus, and really because that one person starts with you. And so now
Exactly.
you're that creation portal, and so you've already succeeded, right? Because so much of this, it goes back to people want to do success and failure. What was good? What worked out? What didn't? But really even that one person that you're activating first, like you said in the beginning, it's activating you, it's activating humanity, and it's activating listeners, and then also just the collective consciousness. So but you are that one person. And if it's already activating you, and then it's already activating, so I even see it as that deeper layer of not even just that one person, but you are that one person. And then it
Yeah,
just keeps evolutionizing, right?
I agree with you. And I also, it's the airwaves, it's going out into the sound waves. It's frequency again, is coming back to that. And actually, when we strip everything bare and we take me out of the equation and we just think of everything in terms of energy and frequency, just having the frequency of the podcast on the platform, Spotify, whatever it is, that alone has the capacity to shift things without anything else, just the presence. And that's the thing. That's the thing it all comes back to. Is we were talking earlier on where we are enough, and we are enough when we are enough, period. And being in our truth. And it's about actually recognizing that our presence alone is enough. Our presence alone, without saying anything, our presence alone is enough to have an impact on somebody else, because it is frequency and it is energy.
Absolutely. And beside the fact of the words that come out of your mouth, or,
That's just like the
what
cherry
may
on top.
Yeah. So it's just the frequency, the beingness, and you'll see that magnetism, like people start to notice, and not that, you're focused on being noticed, but it's undeniable when someone lives in a magnetic frequency of just being, like their human beingness. When they're just in their human beingness, it's magnetic. It is a force field. It is a movement. They are building a legacy just by being. And it's not the words that they're speaking, but it's them being in their divine birthrights, right? Returning to the unconditional love, the unconditional acceptance that then forms back to their purity and their innocence. And once they're in that really high frequency portal of their light, then, as you're speaking of, all the things that they've ever wanted and desired are magnetizing to their light, because they're this huge vibration as well.
Well, they're resonating on the same frequency as the things that they want as well. So it's all, that's the thing. And it's presence. People
Yeah.
think that they have to go out there, here, there. And I know we're kind of backtracking to taking up space, but actually, taking up space isn't always about getting louder or bigger. It's about honing your presence as well. It's about being all of who you are in your presence, in the stillness. So I'm curious, Karli, what have we? I know that you came to this interview with a page full of questions, and I'm curious what the questions are. Have we even looked at them yet?
Well, we segued just perfectly, and I knew it would happen like this. I was like, I want to, just I had 8 questions, and, a lot of it was about your life, your journey, kind of how you got into this work, which we went into a little bit. But then about 3 or 4 questions was about the Initiatrix and what we can gain from it. So I really feel like we tapped into that pretty well. Um, And then my other questions that we hadn't so much got to, but we kind of in a roundabout way did, was more so your coding, like how you would say you're coded and why people are drawn to you, and then how that reveals, the people that are ready to work with you.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question before I answer this. For anybody who might be unfamiliar with the terminology coding, or I invite you to just share with me and those at home that are thinking, what the fuck is this coding? What are they talking about? I know that we've talked about a number of things in this conversation, but that's one of the things that I think that kind of gets thrown about here, there, and everywhere. And I'm not 100% sure. And obviously it's not our responsibility to get everyone to go Google shit, right? Do your own research. But as it's a word that you so often use and a concept that you refer to a lot, I'd really love to understand your definition of what it means to be coded, or the word code, codex, coding, all of the things. And then I'll answer.
Yeah, absolutely. So coding means for me, and how I've seen it for myself and for clients, is coding is directly woven into the mission, is how I see it. It's coding is multidimensionally, from your lifetimes, your lineages, kind of everything of why, really comes back to the truth of why you're here. What are you coded to do? Like, to me, in different times that can transform through our life of how we're coded to do one mission. So one person may be highly coded to be a successful entrepreneur and leading, a multi-million dollar company and pursuing their biggest dreams and on TV and, are well known by the entire world. And then the other person may be more coded to lead a village, and they're supposed to lead children, and supposed to lead mothers through childbirth. Like, it could look so different. So to me, coding means when you're in your highest divine essence, when you're in your divine truth, and you're in that intersectional point with God, with source, with divine, with your higher power, you're leading from a space of sovereignty, love, peace, tranquility, and you're leading from that spaciousness of how you're coded on a soul or a cellular level. That's how I feel it. That's how I've always seen it, is that coding is from your soul's matrix, your soul's codex of why you're here to transform in this life. It's not so much about your humanness. Like, yes, your humanness is working with your soul, but when I say coding, it comes from more of a soul level rather than the topical level that, we kind of have to dismantle through. So when I say soul coding, it comes back to where you're guided from within your heart space. And so, like, I know for me, I'll have all these ideas of, different things, and I'm a open projector. Like, I have a lot of open centers, so it's easy for me to get like, ooh, Bing, that looks like a cool idea. Ooh, that's awesome. Ooh, that's awesome. Like, I can get very like sporadic if I want to do a million things, but I have to come back to my coding. Like, so that's why that word sticks with me so deep of like, I have to come back to my soul resonance and what I'm coded to do. And my mission is to lead quantum leaders. I'm here to liberate quantum workers to, build a colossal of light. Like, that's how I'm coded. But the next person might be coded to be a teacher and to be, like I said, leading different kind of formation in life. So we're all coded so differently so that we can co-create unity together. So to me, it really is like a soul matrix, a soul calling that is within our divinity, within ourself, when we're matched with divine's will. So it's not just my will, but it's thy will with divine connection. And then that brings in the innate coding that's within your soul to lead your mission forward.
Mic drop.
Boom.
Boom. Thank you. Okay. I love that. That was a very, very in-depth explanation of what coding is, and I agree with you. And so what I'm coded to do is So much. Lead other leaders, teach them how to lead from a space of truth and sovereignty. I'm also here to show people how to manifest. So I'm a master like manifester, not just in human design, but like manifestation is something that I am coded to teach on, to speak on, to show people how to do from the heart space, from the heart center, to be really magnetic and just have everything that you want. Um, what else am I coded? All about money as well, very much wealth activations. That's actually been something. So when I was learning about what I'm coded to do, I always thought and believed that what I'm coded to do is guide people through trauma. And it's an aspect, but it's not all. Okay, because we all experience trauma. We're all exposed to trauma. But I thought that that was the thing. Okay. And that's how I started in my business, was to support people through trauma. But it's not. The thing that has been following me around since I was young was money, learning about money, learning how to relate with money, learning how to identify with money, learning the definition of money, learning, how to move money, how to speak to money, how to circulate money. Um, and so wealth consciousness, I'm coded for wealth consciousness, to elevate wealth consciousness, to teach people about manifestation mastery, to lead other leaders, to talk about personal power and sovereignty, and the reclamation of truth, like uncensoring your truth and your potency,
That
all of
is
it.
so good. That is so good. That is so good. So, how would you say, like, currently, and I know that we're all going to be listening to this podcast at different times, but currently, like, what does that look like? Do you do more one-to-one vessels? Do you do more humanity? How does that look right now, currently in
Right
2020?
now, it's one to one, and I am waiting. So the way that I work is I don't just put offers out. I don't just invite people into sacred portals or with me, or containers with me, until I that it's almost like the same thing that happened with the Initiatrix. I can go and ask for, okay, what's the next thing that I'm supposed to offer? But there will always be an element of divine timing before it'll be successful. Like I will just have an idea and I'll run with an idea and it'll fall flat on its ass. So a lot of the time I'm kind of put on pause, because everything that I create, and when I invite people into a group capacity, is because it's so needed. So I have run different courses throughout the lifetime of my business for very specific reasons, at very specific times. So right now, the way that people can work with me is one to one, but also you're working with me right now, listening to this podcast. You're actually receiving my medicine, so to speak, and you're receiving my frequency and the transmission. So we're actually working, we're co-creating right now in partnership and in relationship already. So if you want to come into close proximity, you can do in a
Yes.
one-to-one capacity, or you can come into a Facebook group with me, or you can, you know, download some of the and purchase some of the like micro offers that I have created, or you can get on my like mailing list community and wait until I create something for like mastermind or group, or that kind of thing. But it is coming. It's just I will wait. I wait, which it sounds silly because I know that I have free will and I know that I can create. But when I do that often, it's not always meant to be successful, right? We can go and ask to create things and like we'll have nobody sign up, or it won't be as successful as we want it to be. And so it's like, no, I've chosen to do that for a very specific reason. And the reason might not necessarily be revealed to me as of yet, which I've done as well. Um, so yeah, I know this is a very long answer to your question. People can work with me one to one right now. You can come into my Facebook group and get a little bit closer. You can buy my micro offers, which are all about money, manifestation, activations, transmissions. I believe that you actually went through the millionaire activation codes yourself.
So
Um,
powerful. So, so powerful. Yes, I recommend it to everybody.
And get on my like mailing list, come into the inner circle, join the inner circle, join the Facebook group. And I don't even know when this episode is going to be aired. So it could be there's something already rolling. And I'm going to add at the end of this episode, right? Okay, this thing's happening. You get to come and join us right now. So but right now my focus is the podcast.
I love that. I love that. And like you said, I think this is so potent and such an activation for everyone to hear as well as we are working with you in this moment. We are initiated and working with you one-to-one right now. This is an activation. This is an initiation, of course. And, because often it's not about even, yes, it is about money investment, but also it's about your time investment. If you're really taking this in, you're really taking in the activations, the initiations, you're going to get exactly what you need to excel and be advanced into the next portal that is desired for you in your highest light. So really knowing that starting here is the biggest potency, and then being able to elevate, through your email list, through your Facebook group, through whatever is on your Instagram. And I mean, even your Instagram, the most in-depth postings, and everything that you bring forth is like just so methodically thought. And I love when you say that you wait for the creation, because yes, you are the creator and you're always co-creating and you're always manifesting. You're also waiting for the divine ping. You're waiting for the thing. You're waiting for the timing. Because it is so true of when we try to my will versus thy will, when we try to push the will, it's like it's almost like we're just off by a fractal, and then it gets missed, and then humanity can't even really perceive what's happening because it wasn't launched at the divine timing, or it wasn't brought out when divine knew that it was going to be so purposeful. So I love how you methodically really train us as you're leading the light and leading the leaders. So I take that in such a depthful way of how I get to perceive that is, it's not just a quick whim. It's not just here, I'm just going to throw this out. It's such a commitment, like really coming back to that commitment, that devotion piece of how you really methodically think and lead from a heart-centered space for yourself, for your clients, and for humanity and all of us listening. To me, that's such an activation and initiation in itself. So I thank you deeply for that.
Thank you for reflecting that. And that could really lead onto a completely new conversation as well, as like this belief system around free will and divine will, and whether free will actually really exists at all.
Yes, please. That must be a podcast, because
Yeah.
it must be. Thank you for that. So I'm like, coming soon.
No, I'm going to have to listen back to this episode and make notes as to, okay, I need to create an episode on that and that and that and that. Like, this is so juicy, and there's lots of branches stemming from this portal in and of itself episode.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's just so pure, and I'm so excited to see just how this branches for humanity, and all of the little micro podcasts that are going to be built just from this initial activation. And I just see nothing but so much goodness.
So you'll definitely be hearing and seeing from Karli again very soon, but I feel like we've come to a close. Feels like
Thank you. Thank you
perfect.
so much for having me on the podcast. And I would love to return when I'm invited next. And I'm just excited to see what mystery comes and follows.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Absolutely.